ranking the greatest all-time shooting guards from every NBA team. If you missed the point guard video, the link to that's in the description, but I'll also mention again that the only rules for this video is that a player can only be used one time. For the most part, players are getting ranked based on which team they played best for, and finally we're basing these rankings solely off of how good each player played for just that team. So for example, if we rank T-Mac in this video for the Magic, we're only counting his Orlando days, not his entire career. So let's go. Number 30, the Pelicans with Eric Gordon. I mean, this one's sad. How is Eric Gordon, who was never an all-star, an NBA team's best shooting guard? 29, the Grizzlies with Tony Allen. I mean, not much better. The Grizzlies have a guy that only ever averaged double-digit points once in his career, but he still may be one of the best one-on-one defenders the league's ever seen. 28, the Cavs with Austin Carr. I mean, it was either between him or J.R. Smith, so the choice was easy. Number 27, the Nets and Drazen Petrovic. Joe Johnson would rank here, but he's going to be making it on another team, so Drazen takes it. And in only the 2 full years Petrovic played for the Nets, he made a huge impact, averaging over 20 points a game and an amazing 44% from 3. But sadly, things were cut short for him. 26, the Hornets and Del Curry. Dell was never an all-star and barely ever a starter, but he was one of the most consistent 6-men in the league in the 90s, having won the 6-Man of the Year award once. 25, the Clippers and Lou Williams, who really should be ranked higher since he could quite possibly be the greatest 6-man of all time, and this spot was in close consideration with Jamal Crawford. I mean, both men won 2 6-man awards while with the Clippers, but for how Lou held down the team after Tobias Harris got traded last year, and for the fact that he's won 2 6-man awards straight, and is being highly considered for this year for his 3rd in a row, he takes this one. 24, the Suns with Devin Booker. Booker deserves to be ranked a lot higher than this, but for as long as he stays on the Suns, it's going to be hard for that to happen. 23, the Mavs with Jason Terry. Alright, honestly, I thought about ranking Jason even higher, and you might think I'm crazy because Terry isn't talked about that much, and he was a bench player for most of his time on the Mavs, but you gotta remember, in the regular season, he was an essential player for them, averaging between 15 and 20 a game every season. And then the playoffs were where he made his name. I mean, first off, he averaged between 40 and 50% from 3 nearly every season on the Mavs in the playoffs, and most notably for him, there's the 2011 playoffs, where he helped take down the Thunder, Lakers, and nearly outplayed LeBron James and hit huge shots to help win that series. So that's why he ranks at 23. 22, the Kings and Mitch Richmond. Mitch made the All-Star team 6 years straight on the Kings, while averaging over 20 a game in the 90s, all while being one of the top shooting guards in the NBA. Other lists have him ranked higher, but he only led Sacramento to a winning record and the playoffs in one of those years. Number 21, the Bucks and Sidney Moncrief, who was one of the best two-way players in the NBA because of his solid offensive game along with his top-tier elite defense. He was a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, earned Michael Jordan's respect with him saying, "When you play against Moncrief, you're in for a night of all-around basketball. He'll hound you everywhere you go, you just expect it," and also made it into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Number 20, the Wizards and Bradley Beal. I wanted to rank Bradley higher. I mean, he averaged 30 a game this season and is a big time player in the postseason too when he makes it there. This Wizards team has been terrible since the John Wall injury, and I mean because they are terrible and a lot of that's out of Beal's control, but he's got to prove that he can be a good first option that can lead his team to wins to rank any higher. For number 19 though, we have the Timberwolves with Jimmy Butler. And okay, he only played 1 season in Minnesota, but ranks this high because of the one reason that Beal needs to fix, and that was for leading the sorry Timberwolves into the playoffs. And it wasn't just a coincidence, he does it everywhere he goes. They were 31 and 51 before him, 47 and 35 with him, then went back down to 36 and 56 again after he left. And I know he usually plays small forward, but he ranks as a shooting guard here because that's what he played while Wiggins played small forward during this season in 2018. Number 18, the Jazz with Donovan Mitchell. Same thing for Mitchell. In his rookie season, the Jazz were supposed to be a pretty bad team after losing Gordon Hayward, but he not only led them to the playoffs, he led them to a victory over OKC and has given Utah a winning culture ever since then. Bradley Beal averages better stats, but if a player can average less stats but lead guys to more wins, they can still easily rank ahead. Number 17, the Atlanta Hawks with Joe Johnson, who was a star for Atlanta. Even though they were just an okay team, he made the most of it. He averaged nearly 20 points a game every year and made the All-Star and postseason every season but one. He always got beat up by better teams in his career, by bigger superstars, but was still a great shooting guard. 16, Earl Monroe for the Knicks. Not as popular as most because he played his prime for the Knicks in the 70s, but for those of you who don't know much about him, he was a flashy player, helped the Knicks to a championship one year, made it to the Hall of Fame, and was voted into the league's 50 greatest players list. 15, Ray Allen for the Supersonics. The Celtics spot is already going to be taken, so Ray doesn't get it. And besides, personally, his best basketball was by far played in Seattle. I mean, before becoming a third option on the Celtics, he really was becoming a superstar level player, averaging 26 a game on nearly 40% from three. I mean, Boston really did have three superstars join together in 2008. Number 14, David Thompson for the Nuggets. The man who inspired Michael Jordan. The man that MJ modeled his game after. Now, most of David's career achievements came in college and the ABA, but for the Nuggets, he was still an elite scorer. He could fly through the air just like Mike and score on other teams like it was nothing. Number 13, the Pacers with Reggie Miller. Definitely the Pacers' all-time best shooting guard and their most memorable franchise player. And he was one of the first guys that could shoot 40+% from three, while also having a complete offensive game inside the three-point line. And he was able to do it successfully. He was way ahead of his time in that aspect and definitely goes down as an all-time great. 12, the Pistons with Joe Dumars. Dumars was the glue guy for the Bad Boys Pistons. He was like the 90s version of Klay Thompson. A quiet guy that stayed out of trouble, was an elite two-way player that could also shoot 40% from three. He had a winning mentality, and there's no doubt that Detroit would have won either of their two championships without him. Definitely an underrated player in the grand scheme of things. 11. The Warriors with Klay Thompson. I mean, pretty much ditto of what I just said about Dumars. Klay's the definition of the perfect teammate, and let's not forget this man has never shot under 40% from three in a season. He's a three-time champ, and at this rate is having a more impressive career than Dumars, which is why he ranks slightly ahead of him. For him to ever break into the top 10 of this list though, he'll have to step his game up this year. And now without Durant, hopefully he will be able to when he comes back next season. 10. Vince Carter for the Raptors. Of course beating out DeMar DeRozan for this spot, and is still Toronto's all-time best player even though he only spent a little over 6 seasons there. I mean, when Vince got to the Raptors, keep in mind that they were a brand new franchise, having only been running for 3 years at the time, and they were struggling. But not only did he turn them around and bring in a winning culture, he helped them in terms of popularity too with his monster dunks. And for how well he played in his time there is what ranks him just inside the top 10. But for number 9, we have to give it to John Havlicek for the Celtics. His natural position is small forward, but he did play 3 official years at shooting guard. And in those 3 seasons won a championship with Bill Russell every single year, and was one of the best two-way players in the league. Number 8, the Magic and Tracy McGrady. I mean, there really wasn't much competition at all for Tracy on the Magic. He had 4 star-filled, injury-free years in Orlando, where he began to make a case for being the best scorer in the NBA. But he had no help on the Magic, and was never able to get more than 1 win in a postseason. And that's why he doesn't rank any higher for as great as he was. And when you're looking at his whole career, it's pretty unfortunate. In Toronto, he was just getting started. On the Magic, he was getting no help at all. On the Rockets, he dealt with injuries, and after that, he was just never the same. Number 7, the Spurs with George Gervin, who easily beats out Manu Ginobili here, because this is the man that held the title for the best scorer in NBA history for years. He's one of the greatest Spurs of all time, was a 4-time scoring champion, and it was easy for him. Then number 6 goes to Clyde Drexler for the Blazers. And Clyde's always a guy that gets overlooked because he played in the same era as Michael Jordan. And if he hadn't, we'd probably think more highly of him. I'm still sure the Blazers are still hurting from the fact that he was the reason they didn't draft Mike though. Either way, great all-time player. Number 5, the Rockets with James Harden. The man's slowly been climbing the all-time rankings every year, and he's only getting better. He's dominated on offense ever since joining the Rockets. He's got the scoring, he's got the MVP. The only thing stopping him now from ranking any higher is hopefully a championship, but if not that, he's at least got to get a finals appearance somewhere. And if he does, then maybe one day he can rank over number 4, which is Allen Iverson for the 76ers. And I did consider ranking James over him, but I mean, sure, Harden is the slightly better scorer, and he's a 2-time scoring champ, assist leader, and former MVP. But AI was a 4-time scoring champ, a 2-time steals leader, was a much better defender, was also an MVP and led his team to the 2001 NBA Finals. Something that, like I said, Harden hasn't been able to do yet. But we do have to give Harden some slack there, because I mean for the past 3 years he was going against the Monstars, so there really was just no hope. Number 3, the Heat with Dwayne Wade. It's simple. Harden's at 5 because he only led his team to the Western Conference Finals. AI's at 4 because he was able to lead his team to the finals. And Wade's at 3 because he was able to lead Miami to a championship. Plus, helped LeBron win too. Number 2, Kobe Bryant, no explanation needed. And number 1, the Bulls with Michael Jordan because it's obvious. But that wraps things up. Part 3 of Small Forwards is coming soon, so subscribe and turn on notifications so you can be the first one to see that when it comes out. Until then though, drop a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you next video.